Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of SpearCast. I'm your host, Christian Vieyra, and I know it's been a minute, but I'm so glad to be back here on the mic, and got a lot to dig into today. Obviously, the transfer portal opened up, and there's been a few Spartans who've hopped in this transfer portal, so I wanted to touch on that a little bit. To start off with, the breaking news tonight, this evening, Pete Thamel from ESPN broke the news that quarterback Emmett Brown is entering the transfer portal. He has 2 years left of eligibility, and he started the first 5 games of the season for SJSU this year, and he threw for 1,621 yards and 16 touchdowns this season. And after those starts, he kind of had some playing time in and out until eventually Walker Eaget was named the full-time starter. If you follow the SJSU football team this season, you'll know all about that. The quarterback situation. And I think, although this was the latest news, who've hopped in the transfer portal, this might have been the most expected person to enter the transfer portal because, I'm active on social platforms, and I see a lot of Spartan fans who were, kind of upset that Emmett Brown got benched. And, I think that, Walker Eaget proved that he should be the starter throughout these last games since he took over. But at the same time, Emmett Brown showed that he's a talented quarterback and he deserves a spot somewhere in the NCAA FBS Division One, a chance to start the whole season and things like that. He's nothing but a professional. Every time I've talked to him and interviewed him, I even saw him this morning. Quickly said hi to him. Didn't know he was doing this. I'm being honest today, but at the same time, I'm not that surprised. I think it's a good move for him. But where does it leave the Spartans? Going into the bowl game on Christmas Eve, the Hawaii Bowl, it leaves the Spartans with one less quarterback on their roster. But, Walker Eaget is still the projected starter. And we're also I'm guessing Xavier Ward would be the backup now for this game if anything were to happen or if they wanted to bring him in. I don't know what they do with Xavier Ward. We didn't really see him much except for a few snaps at Fresno State, and he threw an interception. But one thing in this offseason that Craig Stutzman talked a lot about, offensive coordinator Craig Stutzman, when we were talking about these 3 quarterbacks, is Xavier Ward's athletic ability. Is there a chance we see him use his legs a little more? But, I don't know. Walker Eaget also has shown that he can run too, and he's kind of voiced that to me personally when I'm talking to him about things on the record. He was saying that NCAA should have raised his speed in the video game, EA's video game. He was saying EA, he wants EA to raise his speed. So, I'm just throwing some ideas out there on the table. But, here's what SJSU's quarterback room is going to look like for that bowl game. It's going to be obviously Walker Eaget the 1, and then I'm presuming that it's going to be Xavier Ward at the 2, and then that leaves McLeod Croughton at the 3. And then CJ Lee, he's a redshirt freshman, but I believe he can suit up for the bowl game. I don't think that goes against your redshirt eligibility. So CJ Lee will probably be there too, as the 4th guy. And he's, McLeod and CJ Lee have been scout team guys all year. And, that's one thing that's been really interesting covering this team this season is the quarterback room, because, at the beginning of the year, they said it was 3 quarterbacks fighting for the starting job in Emmett, Walker, and Xavier Ward. X is what they all called him. And those 3 all, obviously they're great competitors, but they all were friends too at the same time. And that quarterback room in general, it sounds like, I guess you can attest it to Coach Ken as a, program builder, that felt like there was no animosity between those guys. And Stutz said that, Ken said that, all the quarterbacks we talked to said that. And it just seems like it was a great room to be in this year. It's tough to see Emmett go. He was a great quarterback for us. Led us to some key wins at the beginning of the year. And he was a great person. Great to interview always. And, it's tough to see him go, but it's probably what's best for him because Walker's presumed starter. And going forward, Walker's, he's won some games here. So is the question going to be, what's going to be the quarterback of next season? Is it going to be Walker again? He's going to be a senior this time after finishing his junior year. So he's going to be a senior. So is he going to be our answer quarterback? The transfer portal, we got Emmett in the transfer portal. We're going to get another transfer quarterback that's going to fight Walker for his job next year. I don't know. I'm not sure what to think about this quarterback situation yet. But for the bowl game, I expect Walker to start, right? Like he started for a lot of these games. And going forward, I mean, another big loss was obviously our two starting defensive backs in DJ Harvey and Michael Dansby. And I'm actually going to start with DJ Harvey, you know, who's another guy who was kind of like a leader of the team. And it just felt like when you're out there watching him play, it just felt like his side of the field was just locked down. And sometimes it felt like the quarterbacks wouldn't even watch, like wouldn't even look or pass to his side of the field at all. Like he was so locked down. And right now he has a couple offers already as soon as he hopped on the transfer portal. A few days later, he's got an offer from USC, and he also has an offer from U of A, Arizona, Brent Brennan's. And that's also where Michael Dansby has an offer from as well. But to get back to DJ Harvey, I believe he right now finished 5th in the nation on PFF in the rankings of defensive backs. But yeah, so he's entered the transfer portal. Big loss for San Jose State, honestly. I mean, you're losing a key part of this defense, and that's where I'm kind of thinking that USF bowl game is going to be a little rough. We lost two key parts of our defense, and those two guys, two starters. But just looking up on USF a little bit, South Florida, their run game is their thing on offense. I don't know how much they are a passing team, but they might be able to exploit that. I don't know. We'll see going forward. But he was a huge loss. Yeah, I mean, he was also an all-conference second-team player, which, if you ask my opinion, he should have been a first-team player, not a second-team player, DJ Harvey. And then Michael Dansby, too. He's been a great player all year. There's a few times where, he messed up, but that's for everybody. DJ Harvey had a few plays he wish he could have back, and so can Michael Dansby. But Michael Dansby is another guy, who's in the transfer portal. So we'll see where he ends up too. He's also got that U of A offer so far that he's posted on social media. I don't know where else he has offers from yet because he hasn't posted any, but I don't know. Expect him to get more too. And I understand at the end of the day with these guys, they're probably trying to get NIL, and that's something that's not to say non-existent in San Jose State, but it's not as great as some of those P4 schools that these guys might end up at. So I understand it. Go chase the bag, and I have no issue with it. Emmett Brown too. I understand where he's coming from. He wants to play. I don't know his exact motives for transferring. I can guess, and we can speculate here that it's probably because he lost his job to Walker. It's also probably because, I don't know if NIL is a play in it as much. But just kind of speculating here back to Emmett Brown, quarterback, where he lost the transfer portal this evening, on Tuesday evening, I should say. Emmett Brown, I'm just throwing out a team here, Utah State. He hasn't posted anywhere. I'm just throwing out there Utah State, and here's why. If you guys haven't seen, SJSU wide receiver coach Kevin McGivern just accepted an offensive coordinator role out there in Utah State. And then also, Kevin McGivern originally recruited Emmett Brown to San Jose back when he was the offensive coordinator and Emmett Brown was graduating from high school before Emmett Brown chose to go to Washington State. So there's already that familiarity between those two there. And actually, this time around, when Emmett Brown came to San Jose State transferring out of Washington State, Kevin McGivern was the main kind of spokesperson, like, hey, Coach Ken, Coach Craig, you guys should check out this guy Emmett that I recruited him previously, blah, blah, blah. And, Kevin McGivern kind of got the ball rolling on getting Emmett here this season. So now that he's in Utah State, I'd imagine maybe there's some connection there. And, I'm not too sure about Utah State's quarterback situation. I'm honestly not informed on that. I didn't follow Utah State that much this year. But I do think that could be a possibility, right? I'm throwing an idea out there. I don't know. I'm talking. I mean, I don't have any sources on this. I don't have any. I'm just kind of throwing out an idea there. But that's one idea that I thought of. Yeah, and another thing is we've also lost. I'll have to name two other players right now. We've Alexander Cobbs, Alex Cobbs. He has hit the transfer portal as well. He didn't play much this year, but I think he might have gotten a few snaps. And then Dino Logic, punter, we lost the transfer portal. And here's a quick stat from Andrew Hartley from the Mercury News. He had 11 punts this season, 8 of which were inside the 20. And that leaves Trent Carrizosa as the lone punter for this bowl game, which I'm not too concerned about. I think having 2 punters, it's not a necessary thing. It's just more of a luxury. But yeah, so Dino hopped in the transfer portal, and so it's now 5 guys have hopped in the transfer portal so far. And we'll wait to see if there's any more. Possibly, you never know, right? But some of those key plays this year were caused by a lot of these guys, by those 3 that I've kind of mainly focused on. Emmett Brown, he was a part of some highlight plays, big throws. I mean, you think to the game against Washington State, his former school, and some of those throws he made, I know the outcome wasn't what we wanted, but what Spartan fans wanted, but at the end of the day, we still went to overtime, double overtime with Washington State, 54-52 final score. You put up 52. I mean, Emmett Brown played amazing that game, regardless of the final result. And then you also look at Michael Dansby, and I feel like he just made some clutch picks to end games at certain times. And DJ Harvey too, like he made some crazy plays, like pick sixes and sorts of that nature, and and fumble recoveries. He was just they both were just great players on the defensive side of the ball. And Emmett Brown, he was a playmaker when he was in there. It didn't work out with him, obviously. He had some struggles. He started struggling, and then they kind of switched to Walker, and then Walker ended up keeping the job. As Coach Stutzman explained, that he feels Walker, sees the field a little better. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate too much on the other reasons why. I'm just going to, use what they tell me on the record. So those are, so those are some of the, I think the biggest losses right now. Emmett Brown, obviously. And then obviously the starting DB is Michael Dansby, DJ Harvey. But yeah, and can't do much about it, right? I don't know if we have enough NIL money to keep DJ Harvey and Michael Dansby here. More DJ Harvey is what I'm thinking, because of his, status of PFF top, in the 5th ranked, and then also 2nd team Mountain West, and is this going forward? Is this going to be a problem? Like, are we going to produce these players that end up just leaving for NIL? And another thing you look at too, I mean, that these Spartan players, maybe should reconsider entering the transfer portal. Not all. I'm not saying these guys, but just past history shows, like these guys didn't, sometimes the grass is not always greener, is what I'm trying to say. You could look at a guy like Javion Cole, who transferred to Texas after being a DB here last year at San Jose State, and he's gotten like very little playing time. Also, Brian Parham, linebacker. I mean, he didn't even finish the season. I think he hopped in the transfer portal in the middle of the season or something like that, or stepped away from the team. But I think the silver lining though in that is Fernando Carmona Jr. He was all SEC player, tackle. I mean, he might be playing on Sundays, right? So that, I guess that's an example of leaving the Spartans to the SEC. What Fernando did after being with the Spartans last year. But, maybe the grass isn't always greener for some of these guys. I don't know. I'd like to think it will be. I wish nothing for the best for all these guys. I covered all of them and talked to all of them, interviewed all of them. They're all great sources, and they're all great people, high-quality characters, But grass might not always be greener. But it might be too. And I hope it is for them. I really do. But yeah, that's kind of concluding our episode today, talking about the transfer portal opening up and some Spartans hopping in. I'm your host, Christian Vieyra. Thank you for listening to this special episode on the transfer portal. I'll let you guys go now. Everybody have a good day, good night, or whatever your time of the day you're listening to this. Peace.